As the world spun, so too did the hands of a clock, and the hour struck 6. Iscariot dressed his son in the smallest of tuxes, and placed on his head the most adorable top hat. Iscariot's icy heart had melted, and his mind was like simmering water. He took hands, and once again the two boys were on a drive, but this time away from the city. He sparked the craft to life, and it moved through the air as it cruised into the dark, agrestic roads. The nuclear reaction gave a minatory blush at the corners of the vessel and propelled them towards Fort Nazar. The open roads were not without life. A herd of 100 fiana pranced and grazed in the open snow-covered fields. Some would look up, doe-eyed, as if they saw an apparition floating by in the hours of the early night. Nearly an hour had gone by when they reached Fort Nazar. The star-shaped fort was gargantuan. The base was 250 years old. Entirely made of bricks and stone, Iscariot beheld the majesty and the grandeur in its age. He could feel the battles fought. He could see the bullet holes on the walls of the base. He felt as if he were part of something greater than himself. As he and Hans walked down the stone path to the doors of the assembly building, he could hear the waves of the ocean crashing against the shoreline, and he could smell the salt of the sea in the driftwood as he got nearer to the building. 2 Leon guards stood outside the doorway, dressed in combat attire, and opened the age-old oak doors as they greeted Iscariot. As he entered the ballroom, he had a debonair look and a feeling of confidence within himself. His uniform was dashing, his trousers were golden in colour, his jacket was a rich navy blue with gold buttons lined down the stomach. His left breast pocket was adorned with a palette of medals he had accumulated from the war. Resting on his shoulders were 2 lion paws that held a red cape. It was draped over him and fell down his back. His officer's hat was the same shade as his jacket, lined with red trim, and at its centre was the same roaring golden lion that displayed as a chest piece upon the combat uniforms. The ballroom was beautifully decorated. A red carpet divided the room and stopped as it met the cherry-wood dance floor, where people were socialising. 8 crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceilings, and there were banners along with works of art that hung from the exposed brick walls. At the head of the assembly room was a long table draped in a table banner of the Leon military branch, and sitting upon the raised platform, in the forefront, were the highest-ranking officials of the Leon Corps. Iscariot's seat was just left of centre, and as he and his son walked towards it, Iscariot was greeted by a dear friend. "Isk!" the voice yelled from a distance. Iscariot turned to see who it was and smiled. "Anthony, it's good to see you." "I'm glad to see you out of the house. How have you been doing these last few weeks?" "I'm a little more hopeful tonight than I've been in a while," Iscariot told him. "I'm happy to hear it, Isk. I was just talking to your family a moment ago. They're at the final set of tables to the right of your seat. They're very proud of you." "Thanks, Anthony. I should go greet them." "We'll talk more later tonight. I see a damsel in distress whom I must go and save." Anthony laughed. "Of course. It's good to see your face for a celebratory occasion for once. Go rescue that pretty lass, and I'll see you soon." Iscariot smiled and patted Anthony's back as he walked away. He found his father and the rest of the family right where Anthony said they would be. Robert caught a glimpse of him first. "If it isn't the man of the hour," Robert beamed at him. "If it isn't the man of the day," Iscariot replied to him with a grin on his face. "I'm very proud of you, Isk. This is an amazing honour." "Well, it's nothing compared to being the king-elect." "I think it more so. You earned your place through bravery and selflessness. I merely was chosen." "Chosen, yeah, not by a council of men, but by someone more than a man. This is your day, Robert." "If this is my day, then let this be your night, and let us share our good fortunes together," Robert said to his brother, handing him a glass of champagne. "To us." "To us," Iscariot said, raising his glass to sip the sweetness of the drink. A small bell sounded, ringing through the ballroom and grabbing people's attention. The brothers looked up and saw the event was about to begin. "I guess that means I should take my seat," said Iscariot. "I'm looking forward to your speech." The brothers departed. Words of great meaning were said by men of great purpose. No soul was forgotten, living or dead, as they reflected on what they'd achieved and what they'd endured in a war that had divided one nation into many nations. After several speakers gave words of wisdom and gratitude, Iscariot's name was called. A general whose jacket was dressed with 5 stars, whose name was Gaius Marius, called him forward. "We are gathered here tonight to honor those we have lost, but we are also here to honor those who have fought and lived to tell their tale. To me, there is no greater man here than Iscariot Darroch. His stories of battle cannot be seen with an artist's brush, nor with a poet's words. They can only be seen by the picture his words bring when he tells of the battles lost and won. Please welcome to the stage our youngest and fastest-ranking general, General Iscariot Darroch." A crowd of decorated soldiers and their families cheered as he approached the podium. "Friends and family, thank you. Your cries of praise are very kind, and I do not take them lightly. I'm very humbled that you would lionize me here tonight, and I will forever remember this for as long as I live. As many of you know, I have suffered some hardships recently, but I'm not here to dwell on my misfortune, for nothing can change the past. Like words etched in a stone, they are eternal. Instead, I'm here to talk about the future which has been shaped by the roots of our past, but its branches that sprout from the tree are large and abundant. The future of our military and our country are bright. By the grace of God, we have a new king-elect in whom I have great faith, as I have had with my father as king. We are now in a time of peace, and have been warned that more war and heartache are in our future. I realize that I am newly appointed, and if I'm overstepping, please let me know, but I ask that we have additional funds for military expenditures, along with a subset within the Leon branch, which would be tasked with raids and missions of a more precise kind. Rather than using an entire squadron for such tasks or requesting assistance from other branches, which is our current process. We are the greatest country this world has ever known. We have achieved more in 300 years than many countries have achieved in 1,000. We are the most free, the most prosperous, and the most charitable of any country in the last 100 years. And I believe that in order to continue our reign as divine liberators, we must reinforce our strength so that when war does come, it will be swift, and peace will rule with an iron fist. The audience roared in delight at his words, and the general that had introduced him shook his head and whispered into his ear. Iscariot nodded and gave a soft smile. Again, thank you all for this lionization. It means a great deal to me. Thank you. Iscariot closed his remarks as he waved to the audience that were still cheering him on. The hours of the night moved quicker than the waters of a raging river. The atmosphere was festive in the Yule spirit. Hopes were high and dreams seemed real. It was as if the sadness of Iscariot's world fell away down a waterfall, and only joy remained. He danced, he laughed, he drank. It felt good to live, he thought. As the night got closer to its end, Iscariot found Anthony with a dame whose hair was fire red. "I see you're having fun," Iscariot said astutely. "Isk!" Anthony yelled in a drunken stupor. "Great speech, my friend. Well done." "Thanks, Anthony. You know, if it's agreed upon, I'd like you to join me in setting up the subset Leon branch," he said. "Isk, you know I'd do anything for you. You're like a brother to me." "I was hoping you'd say that. I think General Gaius also enjoyed the idea of a smaller group within the branch," said Iscariot. "Anything you need me to do, just let me know," Anthony slurred. "I'll let you know. Are you going to need a ride home?" he asked. Anthony wrapped his arm around Iscariot. "I think I'll be all right. Me and this beautiful little lady are about to order a hover back to my place." Anthony gave him a wet kiss on the cheek, then grabbed the red-haired woman by the waist, kissed her, and began dancing. Iscariot looked delighted by his friend's light-hearted candour. The minutes ticked by rapidly, and suddenly the room started stirring with a fearsome commotion. Iscariot's eyes darted, scanning the room for the source of the pandemonium. "Get a doctor!" yelled a voice at the other end of the assembly room. He made haste towards the command, cutting his way through the gathering crowd. 1, 2, 3, he heard a muffled voice say. 1, 2, 3. He heard once more and realized it was his brother's voice. Iscariot got more aggressive in moving the gathering masses in front of him. His heart began to race, his brow to sweat, and his thoughts languished in fearing the worst. He finally made his way through the crowd of fellow soldiers and their loved ones, only to see the man he loved lying unconscious on the floor. Robert was kneeling beside him, pumping his chest and taking the air within himself and passing it on to his father. It was as if the world slowed down around him. Blurred were the faces of the men and women beside him. He could hear nothing. The mouths would move, but words did not come out. Iscariot dropped down to the floor with Robert and Abraham and held his father's hand in his. He felt a small pulse on his father's wrist. It pumped once, and then again. He could feel his father slipping away as the beat within Abraham's body grew weaker. "I love you, Dad," he said, and the rhythm of his heart was no more. Iscariot looked up at his brother, who was still trying to put life back into him. "Robert," Iscariot said softly, but his brother either did not hear him or refused to hear what he was about to say. "Robert," he said again. This time Robert looked up at him. Iscariot could see his brother was holding back the tears he so desperately wanted to let out. The brothers sat there in agony, consumed by confusion, and then they knew they would never see their father again. The Lyon paramedics soon arrived. Iscariot and Robert stepped aside and watched as they hurriedly cared for Abraham, and just as quick as they had arrived, they vanished. Robert and Iscariot watched their father leave the room, knowing he was gone from the earth. "Where is my son?" he asked Robert with watery eyes. "He is with Lagertha. I think they stepped outside," answered Robert. Iscariot quickly found his way to the door to see if she was out there and spotted her instantly. "Did they say where they were taking him?" he asked briskly. "I'm so sorry, Isk," she said. "They took a helicopter and flew him to Buna Medical." Iscariot took Hans into his hands. "Thanks, Lagertha. I'll meet you and Robert there," Iscariot told her, and he, along with Hans, sped towards the city. They didn't wait long when they arrived at the hospital, and when the doctor came out, they already knew the words he was going to speak. Their father had passed, and Robert was now king of Saoirse. In that instant, grief overwhelmed them, and they sobbed as they embraced one another in their hurt. With a heavy heart, Iscariot made his way home and set his son to rest. He began to wander and found himself in his snow-dusted field, with air colder than ice and a sky darker than death. Acrimony fumed harshly in his mind and in his soul. "I hate you!" he vociferated in heart-wrenching pain, screaming to the heavens above. "You are cruel," he said, speaking to his creator. "This was the day," he thought. "This was supposed to be the day that I would be the light for the family. This was a day to celebrate after so many weeks of sadness. I just wanted one day to be happy, and you stole it from me." Iscariot spoke aloud and made a promise. "You are a vile being, and you are no god of mine. Heed my words, for they will ring true. I will destroy you as you have destroyed me, and if this world burns in my wake, know that it was because of you."